We're on the road with Mickey, we're gonna have some fun. Regardless of the rain or sun, our trip has just begun. So buckle up, let's go, we're about to start the show. And maybe if you like us, you'll see where else we'll go.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike and she's Sophie.
And she's Brenda.
Hi, everyone.
And he's Grogu. Grogu, it is so good to see you, buddy.
Yep.
He
And
says it's
we
good to
are
see you too.
and we are on the road with Mickey. This is episode 140 for October 3rd, 2022. And this week we are talking about those special people in our lives that brought us to Disney and brought us together and gave us our love for Disney. So it's a long title, and I'm not sure if my show title does justice to it, but that's what we're talking about. The people that we've met and known and love and even in some ways lost, but that all of us joined together for our love of Disney. So
And we are those people.
and we are those people.
Mike
Yeah,
and
and
Oh,
I,
yeah.
Mike and I, and Sophie and I are those people.
right. I mean, we're the ones that are passing it down to the next generation and so forth. And so I think it's going to be a great topic and we have a lot of listener feedback. But first, we are going to do some cheddar from the big cheese. And Brenda, you start us off, honey.
Okay. Well, we're celebrating a comeback today.
Yes, we are.
So starting on January 4th at Hollywood Studios and January 9th at the Magic Kingdom, Disney After Hours events are returning finally.
Yeah.
These are the specially ticketed events that allow you to enjoy the WDW theme parks for an extra 3 hours with snacks and treats included in the price and lower crowds for catching all your favorite attractions.
Yeah. That
Oh,
We've
wow.
been waiting for this one because, boy,
sure.
they've been really dragging their feet.
Yeah, but and people have been like, when are they coming back? When are they coming back? And
Yeah.
now we'll be able to start purchasing them for them. So
Yep. People like that private time at the parks where it's lower crowds. I mean, my goodness.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
exactly.
Yep.
Well, I have some big news regarding the candlelight processional. And
Nice.
the lineup for the narrators of this event have been released. There are still a few days that are to be determined, but I can tell you that for December 3rd, that's the day that my dad and I are going to be there watching it. It's going to be the one, the only Whoopi Goldberg as our narrator for the candlelight processional.
Yeah, and I'm excited. We've never seen
Yeah,
it. We've never
never.
seen it, and we are excited
I'm
to
excited for
see.
you.
I mean, gosh, it's just going to be so much fun. It's just going to be so much fun. We've got our whole trip planned out. My sister is joining us, Brenda.
Yay.
And so she's never been during that time. So we're staying at Riverside. We're going to the Christmas party on the 2nd. We're going to Epcot on the 3rd. We're going to do
Yay.
probably going to do a candlelight processional dining plan, dinner and get preferred seating and I just
And I'm just going
cannot
to miss you
wait.
because I'm going to be at Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party on the 4th. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to have missed you guys.
Yeah,
We're
By
flying in the
that
3rd, so I didn't
much.
want to try to do it the 3rd. So,
Yeah.
yep.
I understand, but
Y'all are going to have a
hey,
blast.
We are going to
yeah,
have a blast.
and we'll be talking about it all the way until February of next year.
At
Yep.
least.
At
Uh-huh.
least. At least.
It's going to be great. Yay.
Well, just to make sure, we are recording this on September 28th, and it'll be released on October 3rd, of course. But so we are right smack dab in the middle of all the Hurricane Ian build up, and so Brenda, Sophie, myself, Grogu, we all want you all to know that our thoughts and prayers are with all of you that are in the path of Hurricane Ian. and we are recording obviously prior to the arrival of a hurricane, but the release date is after it's set to move through. So just know we are praying for all of you for safety, low property damage, and safe travels if you're moving somewhere else for the storm. So just stay safe, everybody. It's not anything to to joke off. It's a serious business. So just be
Yeah.
safe. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Be careful.
Yeah. So that is our cheddar from the big cheese. And I am going to kind of introduce us a little bit because our feature topic is the ways that Disney brought us together. Who was our first person that brought us to Disney, that gave us that bug, that gave us the love, and how have we passed it along? So
For those of you who don't know, I was pointing at Daddy because
so so I guess, do you want me to start, or do one of you guys want to start first?
Yeah, I'm happy for you to start.
Daddy,
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, my first trip to Walt Disney World was in 1979. My grandparents, my grandma um, Edna and my grandpa Hank, which I never called them that. They were always just grandma and grandpa. But they were my mom's parents. They retired to Florida in 1978 in October. So 1979 was our first trip to Florida. And my dad ran his own business, so he was at home working. But my sister and my mom and I flew down to visit with them, and they took us to Disney. We went to the Magic Kingdom, and it was so incredible. I don't remember hardly anything about what rides I rode. I remembered that I had to have a book of tickets, the E tickets, the B, A, B, C, D, and all that. I remember we paid to get in, and then you had your tickets you used for which rides you wanted to ride. I don't remember any of the rides I rode.
Oh
None.
my gosh, you remember the ticket book but no rides? What month were you there in 1979, by the way?
It was during the summer, so I would say probably
Okay.
June, maybe
Because my
July.
first trip was also 79, and I was getting to thinking, I wonder if we were right next to each other somewhere,
Wouldn't
but
that
no,
have been crazy?
just a few months later.
But
Sister from another mister, indeed.
what I do remember, I remember we drove up, and back then it was just the Magic Kingdom.
Yep.
So World Drive was like 5 miles from I-4 to where you get to park, and it felt like you had left Florida and you were driving into some new world, And we parked and we got on the monorail, and we went around the monorail, and I saw that castle in the distance. I saw Cinderella Castle, and I was like, wow. First of all, it's a futuristic kind of train ride, and then you see the castle, and then you get and you go underneath the train tracks, and the first thing you're in town square, and you see it's like you're in a whole new world. Florida, what is Florida? Florida doesn't exist anymore. You're in Walt Disney World, and that Main Street USA is the absolute thing I remember most about how we left Florida and we entered Walt Disney World, and it was just like we had transformed to a totally different world, you know? And that's obviously was their idea.
Yeah.
But my grandparents were the first ones. And um so we went the first time we went was for one day at the Magic Kingdom, and then we went to SeaWorld for a day, and then we went over to Cape Canaveral to see the
Oh,
space center.
nice.
And that was like a long 3-4 day trip. Um, then in 1983, my grandparents took me back with some of their friends and their grandson, and we went to Epcot. So it was the
Nice.
first summer it had opened because it opened October '82,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was old enough, and my buddy Chris, who was their friend's grandson, he was old enough too. We were able to go do stuff on our own without the grandparents around. So that was the
Fun.
first time, and and that was really neat, you know. So I got to see both of those within a matter of a few years. So, but it all started because my grandparents took me to Disney.
God bless them.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Nana and Poppy. And
Yeah.
that's what I call them. They're Nana and Poppy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sweet.
Hmm.
yeah. And then of course after that, it was about introducing family, like introducing that girl, introducing Cindy before that girl even existed, taking Cindy, and we went for a couple of days she had never been. So
Yeah.
it's just really neat how you're able to just
Share your heart with someone else.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And you're able to pass it forward, So so I'll stop for now and I'll let someone else
I
talk for
like
a
it.
little.
I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
So who's
Aunt Brenda,
going
am I
next?
going or are you
Sure.
going now?
Go right ahead.
Me? All right. Well, picking up where Daddy left off, because he kind of alluded to me.
Yeah.
A little
Of
bit.
course, you already know exactly who introduced me to Disney, and that honor and credit goes to my daddy, of course. But here's the thing. The way I look at it, I was not introduced to Disney. I was born into it. It's
Exactly.
something that has been there since Daddy was right, since before I existed. And I actually remember a story that my mom told me. She was, he took her to Disney one time. I'm not sure if this was her first time or not, but it was when she was pregnant with me. I did not get born at Disney. Just so anyone is clear, I did not get born at Disney.
We're happy about that. That would have
This
been
was
hard.
still very many months before I was due.
Yeah.
But like I said, I was kind of born into it. And they didn't ride a lot of rides. My mom,
Mhm.
I'm sure she would have loved to go on Big Thunder Mountain, but it
Whew.
just was not in the cards because obviously she was pregnant. So they just sort of ate their way throughout the parks. And It's a Small World, that's the biggest ride that she mentioned that she went on. And it was good. It was very good. There's a reason I like It's a Small World so much. And it's probably because I heard that very iconic, very catchy song a bunch of times while I was in utero. But even after I was born, I didn't go to Disney until I was like 4 years old. And Daddy, the fact that you don't remember your first Disney trip and you would have been 11, is it?
I
Yeah,
was 11.
that makes me feel a whole lot better because I do not remember anything at all from that trip except that I think Mima went with us.
No, she didn't.
No,
That
that was the
first
year
trip,
after it
that
then.
was the year after. The first trip was with Leanne and Riley and Sean and Landon, and we stayed with them at their timeshare. And
Ah.
we went to the Magic Kingdom, and we went to Epcot. You guys had a breakfast at Akershus,
Mhm.
and I wasn't invited to that. It was a girls' breakfast, and so I was just hanging out in World Showcase while they were having breakfast. And then afterwards, the kids were like, "Epcot's boring. We want to go back to the Magic Kingdom." So we bought Hopper to be able to go back to the Magic Kingdom for one day.
Hmm, you can't blame me. Epcot is an adult's park.
Yeah.
Epcot is better for the older people. And I also remember that the timeshare had this water park area that was themed like plants and flowers and stuff. And there was this one fountain at it that was shaped like a mushroom. And I really wanted to go under it, but I didn't want to get my face wet.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So that was my first trip. Then, like we said, the next trip, which happened the year after, was Mima. And the next trip after that, I was 6 for that one. I don't remember who came with us. We
We
stayed at
went on our own.
Yeah, we stayed at Coronado Springs for the second trip. I don't know where we stayed for the third. French
Same
Quarter?
place. Nope.
Oh,
Coronado. We
French
stayed at
Quarter came
Coronado two
later.
years in a row, and then we stayed at French Quarter 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and it just became a pattern of every year, Sophie's birthday, we're going to Disney. And it was like that until And Daddy ended up losing his job, I think, and we couldn't really afford it. And then we met Aunt Sheila and Uncle Randy and Jagan, and then became the trend of I would go across the country to Disneyland instead to stay with them. And it was fun. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm really, really thankful to them for letting me stay in their house with them for that many weeks because it was never just 1 week at a time
Yeah.
when I was there. I'm pretty sure at one point they kept me for 3 weeks, was it?
Something like that. It was a long time. They said, "Come hang out with Jagan and have fun and just play,"
Yeah,
and
it
that's
was
what they did.
wonderful, and I'm so thankful to them for that. I hope I was a good house guest.
I'm sure you were.
I'm sure too.
Hmm.
So,
That's sweet.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have my daddy to thank for that and my mommy too, but mainly my daddy.
Yeah. It was cool.
Good job, Dad.
Sophie talks about being born into it, and she's right. She was. Before she was even born, we were Cindy and I were at the Disney store, and they were re-releasing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs on DVD. And if you bought the movie, you got 4 lithographs that you could put up of scenes from the movie. And so I bought the movie and we got the 4 lithographs free, and we put them in Sophie's room, and they're still in her room to this day.
I
Sweet.
We
can
put
get
them
a
on
picture of
frames.
them and you can put them in the Facebook group. You guys will see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
So she really was born into Disney, and
Yeah.
it was just neat. It was a great way to introduce her to all this, and to develop that passion and that love for it. And it is just amazing because we're able to do things and make memories that we wouldn't make other times. So
Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, they say this isn't the case, but I did a little bit of digging, and my mom says that the first movie that I went to see in the theaters, they were going to a movie in the theaters. Um, she says it was not Monsters Inc., but when I look at the dates, I have a feeling that it was.
no, it wasn't Monsters Inc. um I think it was The Road to El Dorado.
Since when
I
did
think.
that come out in theaters? I don't know.
But you were a baby. You were in a carrier. And I'm like, come on, let's just go to a movie. And Sophie watched, and she was watching Steamboat Willie, the little intro.
Mhm.
And then the movie started, and she fell right asleep.
Yeah, the thing of it is, though, is that,
So we didn't pay for her ticket. We
No.
didn't have
yeah,
to.
but the thing of it is that if Steamboat Willie was there, The Road to El Dorado was a DreamWorks film. It wouldn't have had Steamboat Willie in
Well,
front of
maybe it
it.
wasn't then that. I don't remember.
I
I don't
don't know.
remember. But anyway,
When you get older, you'll understand, Sophie.
yeah.
Yeah, I still
You
think it was
you,
Monsters
you
Inc. The
may
It was
dates
keep
not.
line
I
up.
remembering
know it was
everything.
not Monsters Inc. though, Sophie.
Do you know what month it was?
Nope. But I know it was not Monsters Inc. because I never saw Monsters Inc. in the theater
Oh,
ever.
all right, all right.
Definitely
Fine.
not that then.
We
So
are
I
gonna
know it
figure
was not
this
Monsters
out.
Inc.
Point is, it was a Disney film of some sort. It had to be.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
All right. That
Brenda,
was
do
great.
you want to
Well,
talk some?
Sophie brought me back. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but she reminded me, and so I'm going to say something. My first experience at Disney was not at Walt Disney World. It was at Disneyland, and I was
Really?
8, and my mom was a US Customs officer, and they had a big, huge US Customs conference in Los Angeles. And so the family got to go. We stayed at, I think, the Beverly Hills Hotel, which was fabulous. It had a high diving board, and it had like instead of loungers by the pool, it had water beds that you could lay on. And we were sun people. Anyway, I remember that. But about Disneyland, when I was 8, I do remember that Daddy, while Mom was working, Daddy took us to Disneyland one day and then to Universal Studios one day. And the only things I remember about Disneyland are the Matterhorn,
Mm-hmm.
the teacups, and I had gotten a necklace. I guess my daddy bought it for me. It was a necklace with Tink in a cage, like in a cage on the
Oh.
thing, and that was my prized possession for it seemed like forever. I don't know whatever happened to that thing, but it did remind me. So I guess if you really think about it, even though I knew already that my mom was the first one that introduced me to Disney, she still was because we went there because of Mama. But I visited the park with my daddy. And my first time at Walt Disney World, I was 15. It was like December 79, so I missed
Okay.
mine by a few months.
Okay.
But I went with my mom and my stepdad and my sister, who's 3 years older than me. And when that was our first time ever flying. We drove to Los Angeles, but it was my first time ever flying when we went to Walt Disney World. And when we got off of the airplane, we I think we took a taxi to the resort. And when we pulled up at the resort, it was the Contemporary.
Oh.
And I had never in my life seen something like that. I mean, the monorail runs through this. I was freaking out. I was like mesmerized. And at that time, you could only ride the monorail to the Contemporary and to the Poly if you were guests of the Contemporary and the Poly. So we had to wear this lanyard thing that said, it had like we were resort guests. So it was just fancy. I mean, compared to like my life, it was just fancy to have like special transportation in this awesome resort with the monorail running through it. And my sister and I were sun worshipers. I mean, we grew up at the beach, so we were always by the pool. And but I remember us hanging by the big, huge round pool at the Contemporary, but also at the Magic Kingdom when we would visit on those days, we would, as soon as rope drop hit, we ran like with all of our might straight to Space Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
That was our thing. I mean, we just loved Space Mountain. And we
Cool.
loved River Country. I went to River Country when Mom took us 2 years later. We stayed at the Shades of Green because the Shades of Green at that time was not a military property. It was just a resort there
Mm-hmm.
at Disney. And we stayed there. We spent a lot of I went with my friend this time and we stayed a lot of time at River Country because we were teenagers and by then I was 17 and we hung by ourselves like a lot and
Yeah.
kind of ate with
Yeah.
Mom and Lewis, and it was just awesome. It was just the most I just loved it. I mean, I that's when I fell in love with it and it just became part of my heart. And then when in 1991, my son Johnny, who's the firefighter, he was 6 and I was married to my first husband at the time. And we took Johnny because I just couldn't wait to share Disney with my kids. So we went, we were 6, we didn't have barely any money. We stayed off property, went to the park, and I mean, I had this itinerary of everything to do. It was just so much fun. And then in 2000, that's when we started taking, like Butch and I were married then, and we had Johnny, and then we had Kristen from Butch's marriage, and then we had Joshua together. We all went, and every year from then on, from 2000, every single year we went at least once a year, and that was our tradition. So I guess
Yeah.
they were kind of born into Disney too, if you want to think about it,
Yep.
because that is where we spent every vacation.
Yeah.
And we started going in like February because the kids were younger and we'd take them out of school and we go in February, and then we changed it to where we're going Thanksgiving week. So we spent a lot of Thanksgivings in Walt Disney World.
That's awesome, Brenda.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just amazing the when we first started taking Sophie, we didn't have any expectation beyond that first trip at staying at Coronado on property. We had no expectation that we would keep going back year after year after year after year.
Yeah.
And And in fact, one year we went and we made our plans for the next year, and then it looked like there was going to be some furloughs and stuff like that. And so we thought, well, you know what, the economy's not right, we need to cancel. And we canceled our
Yeah,
trip. And
that's
then
hard
we
to
were,
do.
yeah, but we didn't have a choice. And then it was a case where things started to improve, we were looking at other options. We were thinking, well, maybe we'll go up to Hershey Park, spend some time there. But by the time we started looking at the numbers and looking at the cost for hotel and everything,
Yeah,
the pricing for Hershey Park was on par with the pricing to go to Disney.
yeah,
And I'm
Yeah.
like, it makes we have so much more fun at Disney. So we made the decision to let's go to Disney again. And and
great
it worked
choice.
out for Sophie. Every other year was when we were there for her birthday. Sometimes, we would go like in June, and then the following year, maybe like in August, right before school started back up, and so forth. But it was just really neat. But the Disney bug for Brenda and I, we caught it, and we used it, both in our jobs, obviously as travel agents, but we also used it in getting to know other people through our shared love of Disney. And Brenda and I, before we ever met, we knew each other through Chip and Co. And that's where we knew Ken. That's how we met Ken.
Yeah,
And
he was
Ken
another
was,
writer for Chip and Co.
yeah, and he was as big a Disney fan as we were, and he was older than we were. Um, but he had such an enthusiasm, and it was just a case where him being part of that, and he wrote about going to Disney as an older adult, as a senior. He had a segment called Disney for Seniors, and he would talk about the things that he and his wife would do that were geared for people their age. And it just shows, it bridges the gap between, it's not just for you and your family and your small kids, it's you and your family and your teenage kids and your adult kids and you and your spouse as you get older. It's not just, for this segment of population. It expands generations,
Yeah,
you
Ken
know
was well into his 50s before he ever went to Disney for the very first time.
right.
And he fell in love. Just he waited for it his whole life, he said. I waited for this my whole life. It was
Yeah.
wonderful. He was a
Yeah.
wonderful person.
Oh, absolutely. He was such a good guy, and we would chat, and we would just talk about things. And he and I worked on the weekend review, for Chip and Co. That post that they did, and we would just we would just share Disney,
Yeah.
and friendships form out of common bonds, and that's how it all happened. It was a friendship born out of a common love for Disney and for the man and for the parks that were created out of his visions and things like that. And so that's just really neat how this one person, Walt Disney,
Yep.
created all this, and it's moved on, and the legacy of it moving on beyond him, and the people still love it, and they still do it, and they still enjoy going, and on and on and on. So, but it's really neat because, um there's the lifelong friendships. Brenda, we've said it on that podcast before, she's my sister from another mister, and I'm her brother from another mother.
That's right.
And it's no surprise that Sophie calls her Aunt Brenda.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
It just is what it is. And um sheila Sheila, when we were going to Disneyland in 2013,
Aunt
um
Sheila.
she and I were writing on another site together, and I told them we were going to Disneyland. She's like, hit me up, here's my number, let's meet. And instantly, just the snap of a fingers, Sophie and Jagan met. We rode Mater's, What's it called?
Oh my God.
Mater's
Jamboree.
Junkyard Jamboree.
Yeah, we
Yep.
rode Mater's Junkyard
Oh my God, I
Jamboree.
love that thing. It's so fun.
Sophie and Jagan rode in a car together. Sheila and Randy rode in a car together. Cindy and I rode in a car together.
Oh
And
God, I love
Sophie and
that.
Jagan were best friends from that moment on, you know?
Hmm.
And even after we flew back home, and they're out in California, but we made a way for it to work so that the girls could FaceTime together, and they would play their games on the computers together, and just on and
Oh
on.
yeah, that's so cool how they can do that nowadays.
So so spanning thousands of miles, but still having the friendships that occur. So
That's awesome. And
so it
speaking of friendships, I can tell you that as my kids got older, we started also kind of paying forward the Disney, sharing the love is what I called it. But we took one. Let's see, one, two, three, four. We've taken four kids that are friends of my kids that otherwise would never have gone to Disney.
right,
And
exactly.
I know for a fact that one of them we also took to Disneyland later as an adult. But she went with us twice to Disney World and once to Disneyland, and the other three I know none of them have ever gone to Disney except for when they went with us. So if they had not gone with us, they would not know about it, and I hope that they'll take their children when they're,
When they're older at the right time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's exactly it. In 2010, we were staying at French Quarter. That was our first trip, bringing Stephanie with us. And we get to the resort. We're checked in. We didn't really have anything on our plate that day, and we walk into the lobby and we see the DVC table, right? And they're like, "Hey, would you like to tour DVCs? And you can tour a DVC room, and then we'll give you fast passes for your trip for your time." And I'm like, "Okay." We're like, "Let's
Yeah,
do it."
heck yes.
So
Fast
we
passes,
went
yeah.
and we saw what a DVC room at Animal Kingdom was like, and Cindy and I started talking about it. Stephanie was there, Sophie was there. They took us over to Saratoga Springs, and they're like, we all had ice cream and made sundaes and stuff like that. And then Cindy and I started talking about it, and we started thinking about it, for the amount that we would be paying and doing all that. We started thinking about the families, and we got a good deal, and we decided to pull the trigger on it. So in 2011, we went with Cindy's brother Otis and his wife Nancy, and her mom Sherry, and Anna Jane is one of Sophie's cousins, and us, and Stephanie came along again, and it was a way of bringing people to Disney that they probably wouldn't have gone to Disney if
Right,
we didn't have that opportunity for them to have that place to stay, you know
right.
and then 2012, we did the same thing with our friends Neil and Carrie and their two kids, and my friend Monica and her daughter, and so we kept doing that. Um, and that just exposed people to Disney that wouldn't have been exposed otherwise. And then, of course, 2013 is when we stayed at Grand Californian, when we met Sheila. But
And it
then in
was a wonderful
2014,
resort.
oh gosh, it was so cool. So nice. But
Yeah.
then in 2014, we were able to bring Sheila and Randy and Jagan to stay with us at Bay Lake, and we brought
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leanne and Riley with us, and we all stayed at Bay Lake Tower, and that's when Sophie and Jagan and Riley became best friends.
That's
So
awesome.
it all happens because of being able to pay it forward, like you're saying, a little bit, and bring people that otherwise maybe not going to be there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just really neat that we had that opportunity to be able to do that. So
Yeah. Yep. Very cool.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what it's about. It's about the next generation of being able to bring people. Um, one of the things that we're doing, like I said briefly, Sophie and I mentioned, we'll be at Disney December 1st through the 4th, and we're going to stay at Riverside. We've never stayed at Riverside before, Brenda.
I
Oh,
Never.
I'm
love it.
so excited.
I love
And
Riverside. I love having my quiet time out there right by the water. It's just so lush there and just peaceful. It's
yeah,
peaceful.
and we are going to the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, first time ever.
Yep.
Awesome.
And we're doing the Candlelight Processional, first time ever.
Awesome.
In my mind, I see us walking around World Showcase and listening to every single performance about how they celebrate the holidays in each country. I just see myself doing that. Um,
You can't do that. Yep, you can't do that.
I can't. I have to. I've been checking out all the different times and
You're going to be starting to bring all that stuff into your home every Christmas. You're going to be doing everything for every kind of culture.
well, I'm gonna listen to it at least. But it's just like all those things I just see
Oh,
myself doing.
so special.
And we didn't record last week and we didn't record um because I got sick and I had a leg infection.
Yeah.
And
Thankfully, it's a lot better
and
now.
it
Thank
is so
God.
much better now. But it just it got in the way of us being able to record. And so that's why we skipped a week, guys. But and when I got out, and because I was in the hospital for a few days, when I was discharged, I said to Cindy, I said, "Hey, how about if we call Robin, my sister Robin, and see if she can join us?" And so I told her, I was like, "Give me a call. I want to ask you something. I want to run something by you." And I said, "You know what? I've been through this mess, and it's all better now, and that's the blessing.
Yeah,
But we're going December 1st through the 4th, and I want you to come with us because I want to celebrate this with you, joining us."
that's
And
wonderful.
and I'm like, you know what? When things happen and something happens and you have to face, an illness or whatever,
Yep,
you realize really quickly just how important the memories and the time you make right now, how important that is. And I said, I want you to be there with us. You get to our house, I'll take you the rest of the way, and then we'll do this. And
that's
she thought
awesome.
about it for about 2 seconds. First, she said, probably. And then she said, no, I'm going.
Yay,
you
that's
know, and it was so
fantastic.
exciting. So Robin
That's
is going
wonderful.
to, she's going to stay with us at Riverside. She's going to go to the Christmas party with us. She's going to go to Epcot with us, and we're just going to blow it up. It's going to be such an incredible trip. I cannot wait. And I can't
That's
wait
going
to
to be
see it
wonderful.
her eyes. So
Wonderful.
so I'm so excited.
Yep.
Oh
And
gosh.
we want to take some time too to remember our friend Jennifer Henson, Ginger Henson, who was one of our Pixie friends who she left Pixie a while back, but
Yeah.
Ginger was very much a Disney girl and just the sweetest thing. And she's passed and left her family now. And we just want them to know if they're listening, we think about her, we loved her, and we are praying for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet lady.
Absolutely. Because,
Very sweet.
all of these things all come because of our love for Disney, but you also you realize the people that you meet, and you realize just how much more complex. It's not just, oh well, Brenda, all she knows is Disney. No, Brenda knows so much more than Disney, and you learn how deep and how many layers to our onions each of us is in, and how many layers we all are you know and
Yeah,
and there's such depth, and we take the time to get to know our friends because we love them. And Ginger, her family ran like a little mini golf, I think it was.
Yeah.
And she grew up loving Disney. She grew up loving her husband. They met in, I think, in school.
Elementary school, I think, or very
Yeah,
like 6th grade or something the first
yeah.
time.
And her kids grew up and have gone through school and just on and on and on. And it's just, and she was a teacher, you know, so she taught the
She
next
touched many
generation. You
lives. Yep.
know, so many
Yeah.
lives touched because of Ginger. And in fact, one of the things that I did before we started is I listed our topic and talked about it in some of our groups, and I got a ton of feedback. Is there Before I get to the listener feedback, is there anything else you guys want to add?
No, not that I can think of.
Yeah,
Any
I'm really excited about the listener feedback because they have some
Yeah.
great touching stories, and I loved it.
Yeah, they do. And I'm going to start with Pixie Denise.
Okay.
She's a pixie just like us. And she said that her experience may be adjacent to our topic. She had never experienced a family vacation as a child. When her youngest was 2 years old in 2015, they took their first family vacation. Her girls have celiac disease and are on special diets. Her son is hearing impaired. For the first time in my life, we went somewhere, and that was Walt Disney World, and I experienced pure magic and frustration free vacationing from the magic and ease of getting accommodations for their dietary needs with little effort. From then on, it became our go to family vacation because once we entered the Disney bubble, we were truly able to relax and spend time together as a family.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then Pixie Stephanie, this is my good friend Stephanie Severance. She is the best. She said, I think this idea is wonderful. My dad definitely gave me my start. We went
Yeah,
to Disney every single year if we could. He continued the tradition after her daughter Addie came along. We go every year at Christmas now. We really feel like he is with us when we are there. Now, Ginger is Ginger Henson. Ginger absolutely helped me get my start on the TA side of things. Without her, I honestly don't know where I would be in my career. She was the best.
for sure.
So, and then my buddy John, his daughter did ballet with Sophie. Um, and he said working at Disney, then meeting my now wife while working there, and now we have a daughter that just loves it as much as I do.
Yeah.
See, John and I are kindred spirits when it comes to that, right, Sophie?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
So I'm going to read one more that I want some of you guys to read a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Megan shared a great memory. Her son won the Year of a Million Dreams, and they got to stay in Cinderella Castle. How awesome is that?
Yep.
Oh
My
my
And
gosh.
goodness.
she said they were hooked for life.
Well, I bet.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I thought our I thought our Year of a Million Dreams when Cinderella gave the cookie to Sophie that was about as big
Yeah.
as 2 foot long or wide or something. Um, I thought that was a priceless memory, and it is a priceless memory.
Yeah.
But staying at Cinderella Castle, that's pretty darn impressive too.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so Sophie, why don't you talk about Sheila and her uncle?
Oh, yeah. Aunt
It's
Sheila,
Aunt Sheila.
yeah, I was like, Aunt Sheila, I recognize this. She was sharing about her uncle. She says, my uncle, who took me to the 25th homecoming celebration for friends and family at Disneyland, that's the guy that introduced her to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Aunt Sheila, she has a lot of good stories about Disney. And I don't
yeah,
understand why Jakin isn't as thrilled about them as I am. But Jakin, she just, mm, she's kind of over Disneyland for some reason. Oh
That's
well.
okay.
And then there's Chrissy. This is Chrissy from Billy's Closet of Magic, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, she shared this with us. I was blessed to be born into the Gen X generation, which is the Disney World Resort creation and opening generation. It's the generation that saw it all happening. She says, yeah, we're old. You're not that old, Chrissy. You look great.
Yeah.
All right. She says, we were the lucky ones that grew up watching all the OG creations with the magical hope and excitement of what is next as legends and stories came to be on screen as art, not the live action remakes. I personally do not mind the live action remakes, except a few of them, but most of them are pretty good if you ask me.
Mhm.
Every story was fresh and new. Okay, that's fair point.
Yeah.
We saw the evolution of animation to CGI, so Disney was life to aspire to hopes and dreams and being heroes and fairy tale love ideals for when we came to be adults. So for me, it was life from the start. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And then my buddy Chandler had this to share about our friend who I think Brenda is going to be on the same cruise with. And
Yeah. He's
his
supposed to be on
name
my cruise.
his name is
Oh,
Lou Mangello, and he is the creator of the Walt Disney World Radio podcast. And that's actually one of the first podcasts that I started listening to.
Me too.
And in many ways, our podcast came about because of the admiration I have for him. So Chandler said, Lou Mangello is the person. I started listening to the WDW radio podcast at episode 10, went immediately back to number one, and haven't stopped since. Sure, I liked all things Disney, the movies, the parks, the attractions, but this guy really brought me to a whole new level of enjoyment and excitement. And I totally get it. And you know what? Chandler has been listening for so long. They are WDW Radio is at like episode 683 or something like that. That's how long they've been doing the podcast. So
Awesome.
that's a long time to be listening.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to talk about Stephanie. This is our Stephanie Sophie. She said, "My uncle." That would be me.
thanks a lot.
Thanks a
Sweating
lot. Ha
emojis.
ha ha. Because now with Stephanie, the beauty of it is that Brenda, her kids are like, "Can we go to Disney? Can we go to Disney? Please, 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 please. Can we go to
Yeah.
Disney?"
Yeah.
So
Yep. I don't blame them.
she hits that question every day, 6 times a day, I think at least.
Oh
Sweet.
gosh. Good luck, Stephanie.
So
This is
so
why you
she
moved to Florida.
yeah.
That way you can say yes.
Brenda, why don't you talk about Pixie Brittany?
Sure. Pixie Brittany said that Stephanie's dad, who's her uncle, is also why I have my love of Disney. They took me along on family trips to Disney my whole life. When I decided that I wanted to become a TA, Stephanie was my biggest supporter and helped me get my foot in the door with Pixie. Getting into travel was the best thing I've ever done for myself. I absolutely love my job and my clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are very blessed to be able to do this, right?
Yeah, aren't we though? And then a friend of the podcast, Jen, also has a family connection to Walt Disney World. Here's what she said. My parents, they took my family to Walt Disney World in the 80s. We always watched Disney shows and movies and the magic was just entwined into my childhood. As an adult, watching my girls light up on our first trip in 2018 was the light that had fueled my renewed love and ultimately is what led her to Pixie.
Nice.
And then lastly, Pixie Stephanie shared her memories, and her parents took her once when she was about 7, but she's kind of like me. She didn't remember that much about it. So that trip wasn't as much of an identity changing moment for her. But after years of struggling to have her daughter, she finally got to take her there when she was 3.5 years old. And I teared up seeing her face when we walked up to Magic Kingdom. Her eyes literally lit up, and it was truly magical. She said her husband even got teary, and he is the least emotional person I know. From then on, we were hooked. And I can just
Yeah.
picture it. That's the beauty of all this, is that we
Yeah.
can picture all of these moments, because of their stories and because of their memories. We can
Well, and
picture it.
because we've lived that same
We've lived
reaction,
those memories. Yeah. Yeah. So it's
it's
just
just amazing.
really, it's just amazing how we're able to just get that connection. So, but yeah, that was a great feedback, a lot of great feedback. So thank you everyone
Yes, we
for
love hearing your
sharing all that.
stories.
We
Thank you.
love it. We absolutely love hearing them. So that's what makes the podcast so good, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but unless we have any other information to share, I think that wraps up our feature topic.
I think it does as well. It was a great one.
Yeah, it
Nice to
was a
remember
good
all
one.
that
It was
stuff.
really good.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, then, folks, that takes us to this day in Disney history for October 3rd. So, Sophie, take it away.
All right. I'm really excited about this one. So, this takes place all the way back in the not so long ago year of 1927. Yes, something that was almost a century ago. I know.
Yeah.
Time
When you
flies,
think
doesn't
about
it?
it, goodness gracious.
Wow.
It's
All
just
right.
century.
Well,
We are old. Huh.
October 3rd, 1927. The Universal Pictures releases Disney's fifth Oswald the Lucky Rabbit film, The Mechanical Cow, to theaters. Oswald sets up a milk stand with a robot cow who gives milk like a gas pump.
Wow.
Yeah, you
Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. This is pre Mickey.
I know. I know
Yep.
you don't hear me talking about him much, but he deserves a lot of love and attention too.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. But you know what? If the whole thing with Universal and getting the rights to Oswald hadn't happened, Mickey Mouse may not exist. So, as bitter as that was for Walt to lose the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, it's what gave him the the impetus to create Mickey Mouse, you know? So,
Yeah, people asked him about it after it happened. He's done. We're out of him and we're on to Mickey.
yeah.
He was straight focused on not reliving the past over and over again, just moving forward.
Yeah.
What can you
Yep.
do?
Yeah.
You have to move
Yeah.
forward.
You got to move forward.
Yep.
Keep moving forward. Just like it
Gotta
says in
keep
Meet the
moving
Robinsons.
along. You gotta keep moving along.
Sing it, Brenda. All right. Well,
Uh-oh. Dun dun dun. It's time for Stump the Soph.
stump the
Oh, you
stove,
can
stump the stove.
try.
Well, let's see how successful I am. I'm usually not very as always, so I don't expect to be successful here either. But
I have
let's
to say,
find out.
this is my favorite part. I love it because I
Oh,
because I
thank
also don't
you.
know. Like, I don't know if the listeners know or not. If it's their first time, they may not know. But Mike has tried to stump the Soph by giving her clues on a Disney character forever since the podcast started. And I also don't know who the character is, and so this is my favorite part because she just kills it.
Yep. Well,
Oh, don't
let's
jinx me.
see. Let's see what we can do. This character is a 13-year-old girl.
13, you say?
Uh-huh. And she adopted her friend when she was 8 years old.
Mm.
And she and her friend are co stars on a hit TV show.
This is Penny, the girl from Bolt.
Yep, you got it.
See?
It took a little bit though, didn't it?
It did, because you never hear about 13-year-old girls. The youngest Disney princess is Snow White, and she's 14, and nobody really adopts people when they're 8, so it's got to be an animal of some sort.
Yep. See, I
Very
thought when I said
good.
13, I thought the first thing you were going to think of was Riley from Inside Out.
Riley's only 12
She's 12? Okay, I didn't know.
at
But
the end of the movie.
anyway, Penny
Very good,
is our character,
Sophie.
yeah. So,
Thank you.
couple did you know? Penny is the name of the character she plays on Bolt. Her real name is not known.
Because she's an actress.
Uh-huh. And interestingly enough, Miley Cyrus voices Penny in the final version of the film, but another actress was originally cast in the role and even recorded all the lines before Miley Cyrus was brought on. I
Oh,
don't know who that actress was.
I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
Like, imagine putting in all that work and then somebody else gets to be in the final product.
Yeah.
It makes you think, did they at least pay her or compensate her somehow?
They would have. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, that makes it a little bit easier.
It's just
but
interesting, though, that they changed it, you know?
It is.
I don't know who it was, and I'm sure it's out there on the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was really
I didn't know that. That's like Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady, and she worked and worked and worked and worked and worked to get those songs down, and they still dubbed her voice with somebody else. I felt like that was so unfair.
That was
See, I
very
didn't know
unfair.
that. I didn't
Yeah,
know
it was
that.
very unfair. But what can you do, you know?
So, Penny from Bolt,
Yeah.
our character.
All right, then.
Well,
Yay!
good
So
job,
proud of you,
Sophie.
Sophie, as always. As always.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that leads us to a little bit of Walt.
Well, this is a short but sweet quote, but I don't remember ever having read this one before, and I've read a lot of stuff. Of course, I don't probably remember everything, but I thought it was really cute. The most important thing brought about in the past quarter century of motion picture history is the recognition that amusement, recreation, mass diversion is no longer a dispensable luxury. Family fun is as necessary to modern living as a kitchen refrigerator.
Yes, it is. I mean,
I love it.
that is the perfect quote for this week,
I know,
Brenda.
I love it.
That
It
the
is. It's
perfect quote
it's such
for
an
this week.
integral part of our lives. Family fun is extremely important. That's why we do what we do. We
Yeah.
want to facilitate that.
Yes, absolutely. And look at all of our memories from people's first trips and how they got started with Disney. And
Yeah.
look at all those memories that they will never ever forget. You know?
Yeah.
And just how they introduced their families to Disney.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely. He is, Walt, as always, is spot on with all his
Spot
quotes.
on.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well,
Yeah.
my friends, that wraps us up for this week. Brenda is leaving us for a couple weeks. She is going to New England with her husband and her friend Susan and Ronnie, Susan's husband, and they are going to check out all the foliage and see all sorts of sights in the New England area. So I am so excited for you,
I am
Brenda.
too. Thank
But
you.
she won't be joining us in our weekly podcasts, but she might send us some video, maybe.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Maybe.
And if she
You know,
does,
me and technology. Hopefully, I'll be sending some.
Hey,
If she
don't
does-
fuss over it.
yeah, if she does, then we'll include it in a little segment in each week's podcast. So, but next week, Sophie and I we're gonna keep calm and carry on anyway, and but we're gonna try to, because we have a very special guest joining us next week. We
Yeah.
are being joined by Tony Award winning actor Ira David Wood III, who is the creator of A Christmas Carol. His daughter is
Evan Rachel
Wood,
Wood.
who was in Frozen 2 as the Queen of Arendelle. And his son is Ira David Wood IV, who's an actor also and has performed in some of the Christmas Carol stuff that David does locally, and he has agreed to join us next week.
Yay!
So we are so excited, and
I can't wait to
cannot
hear it.
wait to see and hear from him and talk about the show, talk about family, and just have a really good time. So Brenda,
And definitely not nervous.
no,
Definitely
we're
not
going to
nervous.
miss you, but we are also looking forward to when you get back.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna miss you guys too, but I just am so excited. I mean, to go whale watching, and I've never done a lot of the stuff we're gonna be doing,
Yeah.
so I'm so excited.
I
We're
cannot wait to
excited
hear
for
all
you
about
too.
it. Can't wait to hear all about it.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, she's Brenda, that's Sophie, he's Grogu, and I'm Mike. And we will
See
you
you
on
on the road.
bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great week.